Well, hello there and a very good evening to you. Today I have the pleasure of hosting Elsie Kanza, who is the head of Africa World Economic Forum. Welcome to our studios, madam.
Thank you very much.
So today we're going to talk about World Economic Forum. Of course, it is going to be held in May, right here in Rwanda. And we know that last year it was also in South Africa. But one would wonder, what are some of the things you look for, the incentives that could be for a country to actually host WEF?
Well, a key thing a key starting point really is that the gathering that we have every year is really bringing together communities that we're engaging throughout the year and engaging in projects, in developing insights that go to our reports. And so there's a sense of community, if you wish. And therefore, countries that propose to host, and we usually get quite a few requests, are interested in doing so based on the level of engagement, both in terms of activities, but also in terms of interaction with other members of the community. So a big part of it is also getting the buy-in from the community to be willing to come to a country that is happy to and ready to host the meeting.
Very true. Now, when we talk about the theme for this year, specifically on Africa, of course, we'll be talking about Africa. Does it also include the kinds of trade that, trade and inter-trade amongst Africans? What are some of the topics that we could look forward to towards WEF in Rwanda this year?
Well, the main theme, overarching theme, is connecting Africa's resources through digital transformation. So already, by definition, when we talk about connecting, then we're looking at connecting in various forms. It could be physically, it could be through the digital economy, which is what we're focused on this time. It could be through the air with aviation. So all of those will come to play. The focus on the continent also means that we very much look at how we can bridge and foster stronger collaboration and connections between countries as well as between sub-regions. What stands out in this particular year is that as you would have heard from Davos, we were raising awareness around the fourth industrial revolution and what it means for us, how technology is disrupting economies, societies. And so we're taking for that conversation in the African context to say, how is this relevant for us in Africa? We have some people saying that Africa never left the first industrial revolution, so perhaps we should catch up before we leapfrog. Personally, I believe that Africa is very well placed to lead in this space because the technologies we're looking at today that are bringing about different opportunities and threats as well, so we need to balance the two, are well placed for Africa given its large geographic spread, the needs of the people that make it difficult for the traditional technologies to be able to reach each and every person.
When we still talk about technologies, of course, and digitalization about it, Africa is seen as you've put it very well, it still lags behind us, and we're still afraid when it comes to cyberbullying and things like that. Do you feel that we will fully embrace digitalization in Africa and move ahead and probably reach where the other European countries are right now?
Well, we certainly hope so. Africa should not get left behind. At the same time, we realize that we have priorities, for example, coming out of the Millennium Development Goals and going into the Sustainable Development Goals. We're not losing sight of those. Healthcare still matters, education still matters, trade still matters, growth still matters, access to finance matters, access to energy matters. The change, though, is that we have this new reality, which is the technology reality. And the key thing is for us to engage. One, to raise awareness about it, get our heads around it. And then two, to say, well, what does this mean for healthcare? And how can we take advantage of the opportunities while mitigating the challenges, right? How do we bring more people online? Most of connectivity is only about 20%. So we have to address that. Is broadband the solution? Should we be looking at satellite? These are some of the things that we'll be discussing to say if we accept that Africa should be actively engaged in this new digital economy, then how do we address those who are not yet connected?
So basically, we are not jumping before we crawl in Africa.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So Rwanda is hosting it, of course, in May. It's just 2 months. Where are we right now in terms of preparations? Do you feel we are ready, or what is lacking, or where are we specifically now?
The short answer is we're on track, right? Preparation for a meeting of that scale and complexities, is a project with many milestones. So today, so far so good, and there's no reason to think that we will not be able to meet the objectives that we have set for ourselves.
So what can we look forward to towards May? What can, in terms of number, in terms of people, who do we look forward to having meeting this time round?
Okay. Well, given that this is an annual gathering of our communities, we still expect to have over 900 of them. These are leaders drawn from government, from business, from civil society, youth communities, cultural leaders, religious leaders, labor leaders. All of them will be present. We will have them explore new ideas in terms of this new technological reality, but also check progress on projects that are underway. Our largest flagship initiative is the Grow Africa initiative, and we will have a Grow Africa Investment Forum. Rwanda, as you may be aware, is one of the 12 countries that is part of Grow Africa, and the role of the forum has really been to rally the various communities to see how we can accelerate investment in agriculture. But in addition to that, we have projects related to infrastructure, to trade, to financial inclusion, to how we can address the energy gap, because without energy, we're not going to be able to make much progress in terms of ensuring that the Africans can take advantage of this new reality.
So maybe finally, it could touch maybe on the technical bears of it. Some of the reports that we have seen countries who are stagnated at some particular positions in various reports, especially in Africa. What do you think should be done to push them, to see some of these African countries grow? We've seen Rwanda come out strongly, leading in some of these, reports. But how can we pull other African countries to reach, a level where we all feel comfortable?
But we'll start with the media and say, share Rwanda's story. How has Rwanda done it? Rwanda is leading in many respects and on many indicators, both on our competitive indices, but also on the technological front. And this is part of Rwanda's amazing transformation story. It's how it has been able to harness the knowledge economy to bring about these improvements. And a lot of people will be coming to see and learn and say, how did Rwanda do this? What can we learn from Rwanda? In addition to that, we complement the Global Competitiveness Report with an Africa Competitiveness Report, which we produce every 2 years. And in the last report, we had a deep dive on what is underlying the low productivity. We're seeing deindustrialization instead of industrialization, and essentially everything that underpins the lack of economic diversification. And in addition to that, we have then been having a series of dialogues. So in October last year, we were here in Rwanda, where we had a conversation about East Africa competitiveness, where we were able to compare how countries are doing on different fronts. And in this regard, even Rwanda has something to learn from its neighbors on some indicators. So through these forms of dialogue, we're able to go deep and help the various countries learn from each other. So we will go forward and have a dialogue in West Africa, and we will also have one in Southern Africa, and then we'll bring together all the findings at the meeting in May here in Rwanda to see if we can actually come up with an action plan that can help guide countries, as you rightly pointed out, to move forward.
Well, thank you very much for making time, and of course we hope to continue this conversation as we move along towards, WEF being held in Rwanda. We are very excited to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that was the head of Africa, Miss Elsie Kanza, and of course she was here talking to us concerning the World Economic Forum that will be held here in Kigali in May. Over to you, Friday James.